Welcome to the show, everybody. So, before we get to the Sixers, before we get to Philly spring training, before we get to anything with the Eagles or the Sixers playing a back-to-back, before we get to any of that, so they found an alligator at FDR Park. That's a real thing. I saw some people tweeting about it and thought it was just, I don't know, a rumor. Thought it was, I don't know, too crazy to be true. But FDR Park, where many of you guys park for Eagles games or what have you down there in South Philly, tailgate, where you guys tailgate, I don't know, whatever, maybe play tennis, maybe you do go fishing. I don't know. They found a fisherman found an alligator at the lake at FDR Park. One of the bodies of water, they're putting the worm on the hook, they're going to cast, and they look down, and there's an alligator lurking in the grass at FDR Park. Just try to imagine for a second what's going through your mind if you're that fisherman that sees an alligator, not in Florida, and let's remember, crocodiles are not naturally here in the United States, so it's not a croc, okay? And you put the worm on the hook, and you look down and you see that alligator. You call 911. Do they believe you right out of the gate? How does that go down? I don't know, but alligator is definitely not natural to the Philadelphia area. I looked at the TV yesterday when I actually watched the news and went, what? Is that a real thing? And it was a real thing. And here's, I have this. The police put caution tape. Yeah. Like police barrier caution tape, yellow police barrier caution tape around the alligator's mouth to make sure that they wouldn't bite anybody that was trying to take him to like an animal control facility. But that's the world we live in nowadays. That's the world we live in. We got a point guard for the Sixers with 20-point games on the season and a Sixers career 20-point games. And we also have alligators at FDR Park. So if you think about that, if you think about this for a second, if there's alligators at FDR Park, then that means the Sixers can get out of the second round of the playoffs. I'm just saying, if you have an alligator at FDR Park, the Sixers can make it out of the second round of the playoffs. Anything is possible in South Philadelphia thanks to that alligator. That's what I'm saying. Trust the alligator, okay? Trust the gator. That's all I'm saying. We got the Sixers game to get into. I was doing the Wings game last night in crocodile-infested South Philadelphia. Wings had a great win over the Toronto Rock, a team they haven't beaten in, I think, a million years. So it was a phenomenal game. Just great games back-to-back by the Philadelphia Wings indoor lacrosse. Just awesome times down there. So coming off riding a bit of a high. I get home last night. I finished the pizza in which I burned my hand, as I told you guys about yesterday. And I'm sitting there on the sofa, and I'm watching the Sixers game. I'm catching up on that fine game last night. And one thing I was thinking, after how incredible it is to watch Joel Embiid drop 40 points, after how incredible it is to see Sixers spread the ball around the way they did, and James Harden get another 20-assist game in a season, first Sixer to ever do that, so that's pretty damn good. But I'm watching him, and I'm watching 6 different Sixers finish in double figures in scoring, and I am amazed by it. I'm amused by it. I told you guys going into this game that the Pacers, though not a very good basketball team, have been a thorn in the side of very good teams this season. And the Sixers are a very good team this season. And the Sixers still are able to come out in that third quarter. They go on a run. They get some defensive stops. But as that game was going on, I started to think, this is great in terms of what they're doing offensively. But the last 3 games, defensively speaking, have been terrible, god-awful. And I know they didn't have P.J. Tucker last night. I know they didn't have Tobias Harris last night. I know Jalen McDaniels was in your starting 5 last night, which was interesting. I think a lot of people were interested in seeing that, and I was too. I rushed home to make sure that I could at least watch how that starting 5 started out, defensively speaking. But the 76ers, some people don't realize, are one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. On average, they allow 110 points per game, which is the 3rd lowest total allowed in the NBA. That is pretty damn good. Over the last 3 games, however, they've gone from allowing 110 points per game to, wait for it, allowing 135 points per game over their last 3 games. That is bonkers. Okay? Bonkers. So I know there's people that want to bring up the argument about Tyrese Maxey starting those games and how defensively speaking you're going to be suffering. Well, you also didn't have PJ Tucker last night, okay? And he's one of your better defensive players. You're also playing better competition as the Sixers are playing their toughest schedule. And on top of that, the three-point defense in particular has been abysmal over the stretch of these last 3 games as well. So factor all that in, and you're going to come out with not exactly an impressive point total allowed for what has been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. Put all that together, and that's what you're going to come up with. But they did find a way to win this game, and they did it by having a good defense for about 10 minutes, not even. And then they also did that by having their best defense as a strong offense. And sometimes a strong offense is your best defense. And when you put up points like you were last night in Indianapolis to the point of 147 points, you should be winning that game. And that's what the Sixers did last night. It was really impressive to watch the ball movement. Their press break late in that fourth quarter was probably the best example of that, other than just what James Harden was doing all night long. But just in terms of one singular play, they needed a press break late in that fourth quarter. They got another 2 points out of it from Joel Embiid, who had the easy dunk throw, I believe is what Craig Kilborn used to call that on the old ESPN Sports Center. But it was a great way to move the ball around last night to break that press. And really watching the Sixers throughout this game, I never felt like they were going to lose this game. It was always close throughout, but I just had confidence with the way James Harden was dishing, with the way Joel Embiid was getting it done. I mean, he had 42 points last night. Joel Embiid, 42 points on just 16 shots, which is pretty remarkable. 19 of 19 from the free throw line, which is where he got the majority of his points. So they just did not have an answer for him last night. And when you look on the other side of the court, you look at a guy like Halliburton, also dropped in a 40-point performance with, I believe, 7 different Indiana Pacers coming up in double figures in scoring. But throughout that game, it was tight. It was close. Sixers established themselves in the third quarter, and that proved to be the difference in the game. When they needed to get stops, they got stops in that game. And I do have to give a lot of credit to Jalen McDaniels, who came up with 20 points last night and was all over the court. He was there on defense. He was certainly there on offense with that 20-point performance, as high as a Sixer. That was great to watch that for that bench help. And then you saw guys like Shake Milton come off the bench, who you've barely seen play recently. He comes off the bench. He's one of your double figures in scoring type guys. You have a consistent three-point shooter, at least last night, in Tyrese Maxey, for what you were getting from him from beyond the arc. It was great to see these guys step up knowing they were shorthanded. And I know a lot of people want to talk about the fact that the Pacers are not a very good basketball team. They have found ways to at least hang in games against good teams. I mentioned the Celtics game from a couple of weeks ago where they were able to take them to overtime, and they have really put up against good teams this season. Celtics, by the way, lost in overtime to the Cavs last night. That's a shame. But overall, I was impressed with the way the Sixers played. And I even mentioned it on yesterday's show when I said that the Sixers win over the Milwaukee Bucks was the most encouraging win of the season. A couple of Sixers fans out there trying to be realists. I don't think they were necessarily trying to be negative, but they did say, well, this means you could chalk up. If you beat the Bucks, that means you could chalk up a loss to the Pacers, and that is not the case. They stick it out. They get the win last night over the Indiana Pacers, and now they go on to face the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight at 7:30. In the back-to-back. So we'll see how the Sixers fare in that regard. As far as the game does go last night, post-game, Doc Rivers, I thought, was great post-game in terms of really giving credit to his players for, I thought, were they really deserved credit. But the funny thing was, when he was asked about James Harden and Joel Embiid, and this was not in a slight. I don't want this to come off as if Doc Rivers is slating his 2 best players. But he was asked about James Harden and Joel Embiid and the way they played, and it was like, yeah, they played great. So it was like taking for granted how great those 2 players played and performed last night. So what he really wanted to do was make sure he was highlighting the performance of a Jalen McDaniels. He wanted to make sure he was highlighting the performance of Shake Milton, and also wanted to make sure that he was highlighting the performance of other guys that came off the bench to give you a lot of help, and also the encouragement from James Harden to Tyrese Maxey. So I really feel like last night he hit on every single note. Now, here he is last night talking about Jalen McDaniels' game. 20 points, 8 rebounds for the 76ers deadline acquisition. Here's Doc Rivers on Jalen McDaniels.
A lot of big games for us. I tell you, Jalen McDaniels has just he's been wonderful in a lot of ways. Just in defense, rebounding, cuts, finishing. He's really good with the ball in the middle of the floor, too. Made a couple of great decisions. So very happy with him.
And I think every Sixers fan is happy with the way that he performed last night. And Daniel House, I believe is how Doc Rivers says it. Daniel House is how it's pronounced on the old NBA reference or pro basketball reference, whatever. But he came off the bench, also got to 10 points last night. So great to see that type of support for the Sixers when they were shorthanded in their starting five. The other interesting thing here is that aside from Josh McDaniels, you had both Tyrese Maxey and you had DeAnthony Melton in your starting five last night. Melton came up with just 9 points for the Sixers. Defensively speaking, and I mentioned how the Sixers points allowed per game over the last 3 games has gone up 25 points. Doc Rivers did talk about that after the game as well. Here he is on the Sixers defense because he said the question was posed to him, hey, this is great offensively speaking. With the amount of points per game you guys have been scoring, this is great. But defensively speaking, I know it's not the first thing people jump to in the NBA, but 135 points per game over 3 games is not great. That's no bueno. So, Doc Rivers, what do you have to say for yourself about that when it comes to your team trying to turn the corner defensively?
Listen, someone had to make a stretch of stops, and we did that. So, even though it was an offensive game, we had the one stretch where we had 6 stops in a row, and we got the ball scored to 12. So, at some point, someone had to make a defensive stand, and we did that enough to win the game. So, we'll take that from it.
That's the positive that they're going to take away from this game, defensively speaking. Hey, when we needed them, we got them. And really, when you look at this game and you see what the Sixers and the Pacers did, I mean, an 11-point lead is your largest lead of the game. That's not exactly very big in the NBA. Now, the Pacers on the other side, their largest lead of this game was 6. So there at no point was this like a 20-point game. At no point was this even a 15-point game. This was pretty tight throughout the 4 quarters of basketball, even down to the wire. I never felt like the Sixers had it in their back pocket, but I never felt like it was going to be a loss. I felt like when push came to shove, the Sixers were going to get those plays, and they did from James Harden, or the Sixers were going to have those shots, and they were going to hit those shots that they needed to hit against a team like the Pacers. Because, like I said, the Pacers, they'll hang around, they'll be a thorn in your side, but ultimately in the NBA, you got to take the ball and run with it. You got to be able to seal the deal, and the Sixers were able to do that last night. This is going to be a tough test. No question about that when the Sixers take on the Timberwolves tonight. And I know a lot of people are going to be looking at it. This will be the game that, they maybe they don't play Embiid, and it's another game on this long road trip. And they're facing a team that's only 2 games over 500. They should be able to win this game, but they're not. You look at this, just going into this game tonight against Timberwolves. Right away, Sixers are only 1.5 favorites. That's it. They're only 1.5 favorites. You might not have Tobias Harris. You might not have PJ Tucker. You might manage the load of Joel Embiid. Who knows what they're going to have going into this game? I would hope Embiid still plays tonight. I would hope you have all 3 of your starters back in this lineup. Embiid, not back, but in the lineup. The PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris. I would hope that those guys come back tonight, but we're still waiting to see how long they are going to be missing when it comes to their respective injuries. So let's just hope the Sixers keep this ball rolling. Now, I did mention the Celtics taking the 118-114 loss last night to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is interesting. Sixers now 2 games behind the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference standings. They occupy the 3rd playoff seed right now in the Eastern Conference. They're 2.5 games up on the Cavaliers. Boston is in that 2nd seed right now. They're 2 games behind the Bucks, who occupy the number 1 spot in the NBA. Don't look now, but ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't been following it, below the 76ers or below the Cleveland Cavaliers are the New York Knickerbockers, who are now at 39-27 on the season. They have won 9 games in a row. They are the hottest team in the NBA right now by far. So we'll see where that team shakes out a little bit here in the not too distant future. So we'll look at that as the Sixers season rolls on tonight. Last thing for the Sixers, James Harden, again, I mentioned he is the first 76er with two different 20-plus assists game. That's right. First name that jumps to mind, of course, is Mo Cheeks. Mo Cheeks never did it, which is pretty amazing. But James Harden has done it. And this is what Doc Rivers had to say about how special it is. And I didn't even realize, because once a guy just consistently doesn't do something, I just don't think about it. Like James Harden and turnovers, he just doesn't turn the basketball over a lot. It's not something I like with Joel Embiid. And I'm not saying this is a huge knock on him, but his usage rate is still one of the highest in the NBA. So when he has the ball in his hands that much, you're going to have turnovers. It's going to happen. If you look over guys that have a lot of turnovers, they're all great players, actually. Oh, Giannis has too many turnovers. Yeah, he's pretty damn good. He has the ball in his hands a lot. Turnovers are going to happen. He's also putting himself in peril with the basketball a lot. So, yes, turnovers are going to happen. Should they happen a lot? No. But you look at the number one guys in turnovers, top five, they're really good players is what I'm saying. So it's not just a matter of they're sucky players who just give the ball away. But when your usage rate is high, you're going to have a lot of turnovers. James Harden hardly has any turnovers. And last night he has a 20-assist game, as I mentioned. And one turnover? That's pretty damn good. Here's Doc Rivers talking about how well his point guard's been playing.
Oh, the great thing about James overall, he pretty much doesn't turn the ball over a lot, makes smart plays, but his passing, when he plays like tonight and the other night, he had 30 and 10, right? Tonight he had 14 and 20. It's just, it just makes us so hard to beat with his ability to pass.
It's pretty impressive. On the season, James Harden only has turned the ball over less than 3.5 times per game, which is pretty damn good considering how many plays start with him having the ball in his hands. It really has been incredible to watch him play this year. And it's really jumping out at me more this year than it was last year. But his numbers really aren't that different when you just talk about the basic numbers of points per game versus assists per game. He's averaging about a point per game more, and he's averaging about 4/100ths of an assist more per game. But for whatever reason this year, it just seems like he is playing. See, this is why I always tell you guys, numbers never lie, but they sure as hell deceive. When you look at those numbers, you think, oh, well, he's having a very similar year that he had last year. This is a much more special, much higher level of play than what we're seeing from last year. From James Harden last year in his first quarter season with the Sixers to James Harden this year in his first full season with the 76ers. It's pretty incredible to watch. And I find myself, whether it's against the Bucks and he's dropping 38 points, or it's this game last night against the Pacers and he's dazzling with 20 assists, whatever version of James Harden you're getting, it's the one the Sixers need at that given moment. You needed him to step up huge against the Bucks. Bang, he stepped up huge against the Bucks. Needed him to start spreading the ball around. Make sure with two of your starters out of the lineup and a guy like Jalen McDaniels in your starting five, you want to make sure you're spreading that ball around so the Pacers never know who's going to beat you. Well, Joel Embiid got his, as he is going to get. And James Harden even said it after the Bucks game. He said, Joel Embiid's leading scorer, we're going to get him the ball and make sure he keeps that up. They did that last night as well. And everybody else got theirs too. And that's because your point guard was trusting everybody, and everybody was stepping up huge for the Sixers last night. So that was great. Another encouraging win. And you shouldn't say that after you beat a team like the Pacers. But, man, when you're just trying to get out of the second round of the playoffs, everything's going to be encouraging for me from here on out. Well, let's hope that it's encouraging. Let's put it this way. And like I said, if they're finding alligators at FDR Park, ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means? Then that means the Sixers can make it out of the second round. But anything is possible, is what I'm telling you. You see, anything is possible. That'll be your public service announcement. That'll be the Farzy show theme today. If they can find alligators, Sixers can make it out of the second round playoff. The Phillies lost yesterday. It's nice. Derek Hall and Alec Bohm hit home runs. Great. What's going on with Andrew Painter? Yesterday, remember I said we were supposed to get an update from Rob Thompson, and we were supposed to get an update from Rob Thompson, and we did not get an update from Rob Thompson. What the hell is going on? I was really hoping to get he's a little amped up for a grapefruit league start, and he just a little tenders. We're going to take it day by day with him. That's all I was looking for. The fact that we got nothing makes me think that there's something wrong. There's something wrong. We can't have nice things. That's what I feel like right now with Andrew Payne. 19 years old, 99 mile per hour fastball throwing, 6'7", right-handed power pitcher, and we can't get any information about him. Top pitcher prospect in baseball, and we can't get any info about him. Why are you, Phillies? Are you trying to? What are you? Second opinion? We're getting a second opinion. Why do you need a second opinion? That means the first opinion was no bueno. If you get a first opinion, and the first opinion, which is never referred to as a first opinion until it's bad, if that's what's happening, and this is speculation, folks, no inside information here. All I know is what you know right now, which is we don't know anything, which makes me think it's not good. Good news doesn't take long to deliver. Bad news takes a little while to deliver. You know what? I checked before the show. I didn't see anything. Let me do this live while we do the show. I've never actually done this before. Here we go. I'm going to go on Twitter right now at 6:39 in the morning. And I'm going to go to Twitter and type in Andrew Painter. I'm going to hit enter. Let's see the first thing that comes up. Todd Zalecki. There doesn't seem to be serious concerns about Andrew Painter. Right elbow, but the Phillies want to be careful with him. It's a good time to discuss the Phillies starting pitcher depth. Why is that a good time now? Come on. Oh, look, there's me. Hi, me. Oh, look at you, Howard Eskin. Howard Eskin, still crickets on any medical update in Phillies Andrew Painter, which is beyond curious. After MRI tests, doctors, this is all stuff we knew about yesterday. Phillies are still waiting MRI results or test results on Andrew Painter's elbow. All right. So 10 hours ago, I was at the Wings game. Is that right? Yeah, about that. Something like that. Andrew Painter's elbow issue lingers. Options arise for number 5 starter spot. Todd's likely. No, this is still. Yeah, no, this is 10 hours ago. The most recent thing. Phillies offered no update on Painter's right elbow. Gee, thanks. One uplifting thing is there's no serious concern. Long-term health. Yeah, but that could still see that. Here's the problem. Serious concern means you don't got to shut them down for like 2, 3, 6 months, okay? But concern could mean that we don't see him as the 5th starter in the first week of the season. I want to see him as a 5th starter in the first week of the season. That's what I'd like to see. And as of right now, we don't know if that's going to happen. So now at 6:41 in the morning, we still don't know whether or not he is going to be your 5th starter when camp breaks and everybody heads north from Clearwater to Philadelphia. So we're still concerned. That's the present state we are in right now with our beloved Philadelphia Phillies and this young pitching prospect that we all can't wait to see make his major league debut. So we're still in a holding pattern, folks. We're still in a holding pattern. And if there's no serious concern, then what do we do with here? And why, like that story right there from 10 hours ago, from Todd Zalecki, based on conversations with people about Painter on Monday, there does not seem to be serious concern. Okay, well, then where's that? That's an easy message. That's an easy, hey, Philly Rob, how are we feeling about Andrew Painter? Well, we're not overly concerned with it, but just being cautious. Even that sentence from the manager makes me go, okay, okay, I feel better now. But still nothing. All right, positive news. Alec Bohm hit another home run yesterday for the Phillies in spring training, which is nice to see. Now, if you remember, Alec Bohm, and it was back-to-back home runs with him and Derek Hall, which is great. Love seeing Derek Hall come out swinging a heavy bat in spring training. But here's the thing. When I look at Alec Bohm, when we look at his power numbers from last year, we got to see numbers like that increase. We've talked about it a lot already in this spring training. I didn't realize there was audio of him talking about the weight gain. Here he is. If you remember, he accidentally was the quote from Alex Coffey of Inquirer.com when spring training started, when he reported to Clearwater. Here's the quote. He was caught up, I think this is MLB Network that catches him. And he's talking about the weight gain, and he belted that home run yesterday, as did Derek Hall. But here's Alec Bohm talking about the weight gain, the power gain, hopefully, that he put on in the offseason.
Really just ate clean, worked out. I mean, I didn't do anything different in the weight room or anything like that. I'm just getting older. You know, I'm a kid that's growing up, so I guess, you know, my body's ready to carry more weight and things like that. I'm not necessarily like, I didn't go into the offseason saying, all right, this offseason, like every offseason I go and saying, all right, I'm going to get big this offseason, but, you know, it doesn't happen. So this offseason I just did the same thing, and I showed up and everybody thought I looked bigger. I just...
Well, you did look big. You do look bigger. And watching him, I think it's noticeable. I mean, he was really lanky. The years we've seen him previously, watching him in the minors and then watching him come up in the big leagues, he looks more of like a Richie Sexton type of baseball player. All right. He does look more of the Jason Worth, for a more recent example, the type of baseball player, the lanky guy, the skinny guys, right? And now he looks like he has put on some muscle. Filled out is the word that I think some people would use here for Alec Bohm. But when you look at this guy, he's going to be 27 years old this August, 26 now, just 13 home runs last season. There were 144 baseball players with at least 13 home runs a year ago. So seeing him get out to this kind of start in the spring is a very encouraging sign for the former first-round pick. So we're looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table yesterday. Bullpen start more or less yesterday for the Phillies yesterday. We'll see what they give us today in Grapefruit League action. Phillies did take a 10-7 loss to the Baltimore Orioles last night. Yesterday afternoon in spring training. Let me tell you about my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven Singer's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. Steven Singer Jewelers, you know what he offers? The perfect price each and every day, whether that's at the other corner of 8th and Walnut or that's online at IHateStevenSinger.com. The perfect price means you don't have to worry about a coupon, a promo code, or a sale. The sale's every day at Steven Singer. While other jewelers are marking things way up, Steven keeps them marked at the perfect price every single day. So you don't have to worry about negotiating or haggling or whether you're being taken advantage of. You're getting treated like a real family member at Steven Singer Jewelers. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price each and every day. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about the great people of Manscaped. Manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com when you use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy at Manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping. And here's what else you get, ladies and gentlemen. You get the Platinum Package 4.0 that includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. It also includes the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, and they both come with skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So check out manscaped.com and use promo code Farzy for 20% off. How about the amazing people at Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. Freestone Farm CBD. You'll enjoy the tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into a chart topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine, fine Tuesday morning. April, good morning. Kevin, hello. April, there's an alligator that lives in the retention pond near our local Walmart. April's down there in the Carolinas. I guess it makes more sense there. One thing that I really took away from my 2 years of working with Mr. Trey Thomas, him being from Florida, how alligators are a real thing. He's like, you don't swim in a body of water in in Florida. You don't, because of the threat of alligators. Like, that's something that has to be like, kids are taught in grade school, like kindergarten, first grade, third grade, how to free themselves from an alligator attack, which, as I was told, is you're supposed to take 2 fingers here, right? All right. And you're supposed to poke them in the nostrils so they can't breathe, and then they have to open their mouth, and then you get out. So if you're ever at FDR Park and you're attacked by an alligator, or maybe you're on vacation in Florida and you get attacked by an alligator, 2 fingers, nostrils. First off, don't panic. Try not to panic. 2 fingers, nostrils, and that's supposed to get you out of there. There you go. The more you know. Do. There you go. Sean Gillespie, what's going on, Sean Gillespie? Me, hi, what's popping? Sean Gillespie, redo that tattoo, hair duck. I had no idea what you're talking about, Sean. Now I get you. All right. Mihai, what's up, buddy? Morning. Jeff, what's going on? Sixers have the 4th best record in the entire NBA. Where did I see it? Were they actually appropriately ranked in the NBA power rankings at 4? No, I think they got 5 because the Nuggets, I think, were 3rd. I think it was Bucks, Celtics, Nuggets, people pop. Then the Sixers, I think. I think that's how it worked. Oh, and the Knicks. The Knicks were 5th with their 9 wins in a row. Sean Gillespie, everyone proved wrong. I hope so. April stressed they hadn't heard anything yet from Andrew Painter. Yeah, as of right now, still waiting to see what the hell's going on. April, yeah, no, Gators are definitely a big thing around here. Yeah, that's horrifying. That's not good. That's not good. Don't need that. Don't need that even a little bit. But apparently that's a big thing. Don't want that to be a big thing, but it's a big thing. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. One thing I do want to get into some Eagles conversation here because, and I know I talked about this a while ago, but the change in coordinators has me a little bit concerned. And it's only because of what recently happened with the Eagles after they won the Super Bowl in 2017 in the year of 2018. The only reason it has been concerned is because there's been so much change. And although Jalen Hurts is in no way, shape, or form the same quarterback as Carson Wentz, and the thing that I always applaud about Jalen Hurts is the mental makeup, and you guys have heard me talk about that. But when there's a lot of change in the organization, and you're also going through a lot of change, not just in your coaching staff, but you're going to go through a lot of turnover on your roster as well, with the fact that there will be cap casualties. The fact that I saw the report out there with Derek Gunn, it was the first time I saw a report and went, oh, maybe Brandon Graham's not back. But everyone I've talked to so far seems pretty confident the Eagles are going to find a way for Brandon Graham to come back. The guy that I think will be the odd man out will be James Bradbury and Fletcher Cox. Those are the guys I think they'll be odd men out in the NFL with the NFL free agency. I think CD Deuce is back. I think you have a lot of turnover elsewhere. I think Jason Kelsey comes back. I think Brandon Graham does come back. I think Javon Hargrave is back. And it's going to be difficult to sign all these guys and at the same time sign a long-term contract with your quarterback that's probably going to be that estimated average annual salary of about $50 million. So that's all going to be tough. But if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Howie Roseman. There are contracts you can restructure, whether that be Lane Johnson, whether that be Darius Slay, whoever it might be, there's contracts that you can restructure. But when you talk about all the change there on the roster and you talk about all the change there in your coaching staff, that's a lot of change. And the thing that has me concerned about the defensive coordinator position right now is that Denard Wilson, as we talked about yesterday, was a very popular character in the Eagles locker room. Somebody else who was popular was a guy like John DeFilippo. And the Eagles offense, and Frank Reich, obviously, the Eagles offense was never quite the same after those two position coaches or coordinators left. The Eagles had a very good defense last year. And I know Jonathan Gannon wasn't winning popularity contests until he told some Eagles fans that they were going to gut the 49ers. And even then, any goodwill that was created by that was dismissed by the second half of that Super Bowl. But bottom line is, this was a top-ranked defense in the NFL. This was top 10 at worst over the last 2 seasons in the NFL under Jonathan Gannon as your defensive coordinator. Now he's gone. A guy like TJ Edwards, who took major steps forward from last year, we had Alex Singleton as your starting middle linebacker. Then TJ Edwards took over that responsibility and then took over the responsibility and ran with it this season. That was all under the development of Nick Rallis, their linebackers coach, who is now joining Jonathan Gannon in Arizona. Their secondary was the best secondary in the NFL. And you know who their secondary coach, you know who the defensive backs coach was, you know who the defensive passing game coordinator was? Denard Wilson. And now he's gone. That's a lot of change. Your offense coordinator is now a head coach in Indianapolis. Brian Johnson. Of all the positions, of all the jobs, I'm least concerned about Brian Johnson taking over as your offensive coordinator and play caller when it seems like Nick Sirianni has that position pretty much on lock in terms of push button. Not only is it push button, but you already have a wonderful relationship between your offense coordinator and Brian Johnson and your MVP candidate quarterback and soon to be very highly paid quarterback in Jalen Hurts. So that's the least of my worries. But defensive turnover, oh, baby. If this defense steps onto the football field next year and performs much lower than the bar that they set over the last 2 seasons, oh, that's not going to be pretty. Because then what's going to happen? We all know what's going to happen. We shouldn't have let Denard Wilson go. Why? Even if you don't have James Bradbury, even if you draft a corner, even if Zach McPherson's all of a sudden your starting corner opposite Darius Slay next year, you know what we're going to say? Oh, they made a mistake and let Wilson go. Shouldn't have let Wilson go. It's such an easy thing to look at. Defensive line isn't going to be as good as it was this past season. I mean, we're talking about a 70-sack season. That's a pretty high bar. You have the same defensive line coach, so that's good. But when it comes to everything else, if this secondary struggles in the pass-happy NFL that we all know about, in the modern NFL, oh, man. Just imagine for a second how much heat, as great as he's been, Howie Roseman's going to take for allowing this organization, whether it be mainly his decision or it be Nick Sirianni's decision. Imagine how much heat this organization as a whole will take if their defense starts to go in the tank because they can't stop anybody in the passing game. That is a concern for next year. Overall, you're supposed to have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and I think you have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that can be a pretty damn strong deodorant when it comes to other things stanking on this team. When you look at the coaching turnover, a lot of things are changing. I know you're keeping a lot of things in-house, especially on the offensive side of the football. When you look at the defensive side of things, there's not a lot of wiggle room here. That is a huge hit. And the least surprising thing as we sit here and we talk today on March 7th, when we talk about it right now, ahead of the NFL draft, the franchise tag, the deadline closes at 4 o'clock today. We'll see what happens in Baltimore with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But we'll see what closes out today, and we'll see whether or not Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gets tagged or gets a long-term deal with the Eagles. We'll see. But as of right now, the way I look at it is if you're looking at the Eagles taking a huge hit on either side of the football, defense right now is a concern. And I know a lot of people think, especially after that second half of the Super Bowl, after Gannon, you can only go up. Oh, no. Oh, no. Number one, you're not going any higher than number one. There's only one place to go. There's only one place to go. As Sir Mix-a-Lot said when he released the song, Baby Got Back. And they were number one forever. When you're number one, there's only one direction to go, and that's down. Maybe you stay there at number one. James Bradbury probably not being back. See what the Eagles will do with the other corner position. It's probably not going to be. Marcus Epps is apparently getting interest from around the league. What? Kayvon Wallace ready for that other safety spot finally? No? I don't think so. But when you look at it, Reed Blankenship, maybe him and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back there, maybe. But when you look at it, this secondary is going to take a huge hit going into next year. And if the secondary is going to take a huge hit, then it also means that your defensive line is not going to have anywhere near the same amount of sacks as they had this season. And that also means that not only are you going to be losing your coach, not only are you going to be losing members of your secondary, you're also going to be losing key members of this defensive line. I'd love to say that Jordan Davis is ready to take a 70% of the snaps, 66% of the snaps as opposed to 36% of the snaps. I don't think he's going to be ready for that leap in his second year as a pro. I'd love to say that he is. I'd love to say that him and Javon Hargrave are going to dominate the interior line the way that you saw with Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Linval Joseph, and Ndamukong Suh, and Javon Hargrave did all year. But I can't have that confidence. I'm confident in Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick having stellar years again. But everybody else, I don't really think it's going to be there as it was this past year. We always talk about it. It's a very basic thing in football. Your defensive line and your secondary helping each other out. Very common cliche, but it's very true. Both units are taking a hit, and their coaching staff's taking a hit at the same time. Sean Desai better be something special to figure out how the Eagles aren't going to have as much talent. I mean, one guarantee we could talk about, just as much as I want to guarantee you, I think I can guarantee you that Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts are not going to miss a beat. Nick Sirianni to Brian Johnson to Jalen Hurts are not going to miss a beat. Much as I could say that with confidence, I can't say that right now with Sean Desai. I don't know what Sean Desai is bringing to the table. I've heard great things, but until I actually see it, and also not only see what he brings as a coach, as a defensive coordinator, something he's only done once in his career, I also know he's not going to have the weapons that Jonathan Gannon, Denard Wilson had last year with this Eagles defense. So you're changing the personality, running your defense, and you're changing the personnel. And there's a pretty good chance it's not for the better. Personnel-wise, I know it's not for the better. We'll see what the Eagles do in this draft. But as of right now, personnel-wise, it's going to be hard to top. Number one. Any chance I have to quote Sir Mix-a-Lot? I try to do what I can. T-Bro's in the chat now. What's up, T-Bro? Blankenship and CJ will be good tandem. Fingers crossed. He's got something on Bohm, too. What? Bohm has put on muscle, but have you seen Thunder Thighs himself, Nola? Someone spent the offseason doing squats and deadlifts. I have not. I did not notice Nola. PJ, you notice Nola? The Thunder Thighs? No? That's something I haven't seen much of for the old Thunder Thighs. Fun fact, I didn't realize Thunder Thighs was for a lady. I didn't realize Thunder Thighs was an insult. I found that out the hard way. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Thanks, T-Bro. Great to see you in the chat there, as per usual. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. You guys are great, as per usual. We have another 76ers game to talk about tomorrow. We'll be sure to break that down and more on tomorrow's program. Also, see what happens with the franchise tag. If you remember, Adam Kaplan of Inside the Birds had the report that the Eagles, if they couldn't work out a long-term deal with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they were going to franchise tag him. It's something that the Eagles don't normally do. It's something that they don't like doing. But we'll see what happens with the franchise tag deadline at 4 o'clock today. So we'll see what happens there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Jim Hyden produced the program, did a wonderful job as per usual. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. My name is Mark Farzetta. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. See you.